Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs, Dr. Contrast Live. Before I begin here today, I just thought I'd a little bit of an update. I really felt terrible, but this past Tuesday, we were really having a hard time getting logged on to Twitch, and for some odd reason, we just went to a certain stage and logging in. All of a sudden, the next thing we know, I could put the title block. I couldn't put the title block in, so I could not go any further. So we just kind of pulled back a little bit and had decided to go back and look at the troubleshooting systems. And sure enough, all the difficulties that we found were on the Twitch's end. We were fine at this end, but something had taken place at the Twitch side of life. So anyway, very sorry for the inconvenience on that end of the game, but I just thought today we'd kind of pull back a little bit. I'm going to go through some really quick scenarios here and just some transportation design concept sketches, and no real brand or brand line in mind, just going through a series of thumbnail studies and maybe some overview of a little bit of technique change, go to tone paper perhaps, a little bit of marker stuff, and we'll just run through some really quick little thumbnail sketches here on just basic transportation design. And while I go through all this, to really notice, for example, how really melodic the whole process should become. When you go through a sketch rendering exercise, it should not be really looked upon as being very stiff or rigid, but just being very melodic. A lot of intuition, a lot of improvisation, a lot of searching and looking through the process to get to arrive at the proportion. I think one of the toughest things we do in transportation design, it was for me in the early stages, and still is a battleground in many cases, is getting the proportional width. You go to like a 3/4 front or a 3/4 rear, getting those proportions correct as far as width, the height, and length become a real issue. So we'll go through some of those phases, maybe if not today, maybe on this coming Tuesday. So let's get this started. I'm gonna do an elevation quickly here, just nice little quick little SUV. Let's get the ground line down here. Lay down that first tire. As we said before, we always go back into this process of 1, 2, 3, I get maybe a good 4.5 back, a little bit of beef to this thing. Let's get that down, kind of reinforce the ground line, get that set up. Let's put a nice spring line in this thing. Let's get an elevation down. Our side tire in place, get a little more perspective, a little bit of depth to it. And just put a little nice little scratchy stuff in here, just kind of give ourselves a little peek at. Find that perspective center. sharpen this guy up a bit here. Back to it. A little bit of daylight in the glass here. A little bit of surface to it. A little bit of body forming in this guy. And there's a little elevation study here, phase one. Just got to put together some quick proportions here. Let me sharpen this stick up a little bit. Let's switch into maybe a 3/4 front here. Let's get this guy started here. So we got to get the wheelbase started. Go back here and get this thing counted in. Let's just kind of pick a side here. We're just going to see it maybe right in there. For something to come right back in there with a nice body line and get this thing, the gesture to kind of come through for us here. Take that through, run this over, that proportion in, get that upper in place, slide that across. Again, just really quick little gesture stitch here. Let's bring this into play here. Get that set up. Bit of a lapping graphic here. Let's run that through. The center line, backside line here. Let's get a little bit more of that hip to kind of work for us here, like that upper sketch has here. Let's get this in place. Back here and get this guy. Bend her down a little bit here. Sharpen this guy again a little bit here. This roughly put together. There we go, coming together nicely. There it is. A little bit of wine weight thrust here. And a little quick little sketch here, just got a little 3/4 front. It's got a little more shadow in this guy here. Let's put this down just a bit. Turn this upside of filament. I'm just going to put a little bit of thrust line in this guy. Take it through the machine. And there's a little elevation in a 3/4 front study on just getting some theme down. Maybe a little variation and a change of pace here, but nonetheless, I think really important thing about this is once you get that elevation down, notice it's a different stance, kind of a little bit of downhill California rate to it. And then when you go to the proportion side, this is the key point right here. That's center line of the vehicle, right in there. That point right there, center line of the vehicle. So when I started this sketch, I laid down that front 3/4 wheel and moved over, drew a line right through across the top, and gave myself I guessed at point of reference for maybe width. So far it worked out pretty good. That proportion right there is always tough to deal with, and I think that's one of the things I really want to address here as we go through some of these exercises, a little bit of technique work and the like. So let's call that, let's go to that sketch one. I'm going to switch gears here and do a little bit of tone paper. I'm going to put those off to one side here for a moment. And let's go back and just kind of switch gears and go through some of this stuff here with this. Let's go back and look at that same, we had an elevation there on that last sketch. Let me get organized here for a moment. In this last sketch, we had a little bit of a fastback. Let's look at that same thing and go through maybe a little bit of variation of the theme here. Let's get a ground line down. It's just switching gears, a little bit of medium change here. Get the same process. Let's line that guy up. And it's just a little stretch of the wheelbase. Get this a little bit more of a drive line here. Let's get that same spring line to work. At the same time, let's go a little spookier with this thing now. A little more of a cam back. Sharpen this up just a bit. Gonna tooth this thing down just a touch. Here we are. Get this drive line to go through again, up, and then break it. And then that, and maybe more of a cam back on it. Maybe another variation of pillar. Now up on top here, let's do this. Let's put a little bit of graphics in this guy here. Get the signaling device here. Let's do a little bit of this, put a little bit of tone in this thing now. Gonna come through it just a bit. Get it down, so don't a bit of a middle tone surface here to get the body form to run through a bit. Go right through the entire process, just swim right through it. This will dry. Very exciting process here. It's going to bring this into play here. Let's run that through, let's run that through again. It's a little more stain in this thing. Now let's go back and do this. Come back in. A little bolder now with these tire graphics, and I think we're in pretty good shape. Hey, Demetrius, is the fourth circle in the front of the back wheel in the back? Yes, that's in perspective. That's exactly right. These guys are in perspective now. No question there. Demetrius, hey, good to have you on board. How are you? Good to see you there, Doctor. Let me just go back and get some of these wheel graphics in place here. Let's see. That's it. Oh, there it is. I got it. go back and get a little bit of some contour in this thing now. More body diamonds right through this thing. More reflective light coming through this body shape. Just slowly but surely building the form, being nice and lucid with it, not getting all caught up or trapped. That's that. Let's go really bold with this thing so we can get this thing to kind of knock itself out. And more glass graphics in here. We'll go back and pick up some interesting surfaces here. Let's do this. Let's really knock that thing back. And one more pass here. And again here. Let's get this backside tire set up here and ground it down just a bit more. A little bit more technique to it. Kind of settle it. This one piece out of the face here. I'm not feeding through the other. Ah, good, I'm not. I can use a sheet here in a moment. There you are, Demetrius. What do you think? A little quick little thumbnail sketch here on the back. These backside tires are definitely. You're absolutely right. Those are the backside tires in perspective. Let's put a bit of hot spot on these guys here. Of light source. And real quick little elevation sketch in perspective, not in perspective, just kind of put a little bit more flavor to it. I kind of, I don't know about you, but I kind of prefer that kind of that torpedo back look much stronger. I think it's better than the cam back look here. So let's carry on here. What do you think, Demetrius? Is it making sense for you? I'm just doing some really quick exercises today on just transportation concept sketches. Basically, trying to get a hold of the fact that the most important aspect here is proportion, length, overall height, width, and especially when you go to perspective and getting the widths correct. So let's going to do a little thumbnail sketch down below here. I'm just going to sharpen this stick up a bit. We'll go at it here. There we are. Ready? Let's take it back in perspective. Same count. 1, 2, 3, 4 back, and eliminate that. Just going to get this in place here. Put the fenders in place. Let's run that across. Again, very constructive sketch here. Nice and lucid. I'm just kind of looking at basic overall proportion here. What am I going to do with this guy? Now maybe that stops here. And maybe this comes in. There's more of this. Which gives me more of... Let's try a little different here. Rearview mirror. Rearview mirror. Let's take that back. Go minimal. Now let's go back and put a little bit of punch in this thing. Now, real quickly here, look how efficient that is. Getting the proportions down, getting the shapes corrected. I mean, look how simple and really it's just very methodical in terms of getting the proportions set. Let me move this up just a bit here. Get this guy to come back just a bit. Just very simple, minimal stuff. And just go back and put a highlight in here. Put a little bit of this in it. And it's really a lot of fun. You know, kind of put these guys together here. Let's kind of do this. Let's get a little bit of this in here. Take that in behind it. Let's get a bit of a presence here. And what do you think, Demetrius? There it is. This is the second phase here. It's just a little bit of a different approach in getting some of the graphics down. Just a lot of fun to see how it all begins to unfold here. I'm just going to get these guys lined up a bit more. For some odd reason, the camera distorts those wheel ellipses here. Get that little bit of highlight up on top of that glass, and then we'll let it fade back, and that's much better. There it is. The far side glass. Into the cowl. Over the edge of that border right there. Maybe just a touch more of this, just going to give a little more body to it, just enough to kind of roll me over the side of that thing. And that's that. And there's sketch number 2. What do you think there, guys? Just a nice, simple, little melodic little sketch here. Just kind of put together the format, elevation, looking at just different ways to approach the concept of getting proportion right in the elevation, and then really kind of triggering back into the thing the Canson is. Yeah, Canson's a great medium, I think. No question, Demetrius. It's a tremendous element to deal with, I think. Just great stuff to work with here. So it's that's that. Let's go back in just for a second here. Gonna put those together here. Let me just do this before I begin here, before I forget. That goes there. Let's see here. Let's go back in and just do another little thumbnail sketch here. And there's a little thumbnail sketch. There it is right there. Hey, the Marinello flavor. Hey, how you doing, Jeff? Good to see you, Chief. Thanks to have you on board today. Just a little concept work here in terms of putting together some really quick little concept sketches here, Jeff. I just started out with a couple of little thumbnail sketches to bring up the speed here. Started with a little pencil sketch, an elevation, and a three-quarter front, basically concentrating and getting a gesture down in the elevation, then turning it around into the three-quarter front. And when I made a point here in this sketch, Jeff, little Marinello, it's just interesting how when I put it in the three-quarter front, the real key issue here was getting this thing into a format of the right proportion and getting the right width to height and length and so forth. And it always comes back to laying down the right wheelbase, as you well know. Start with the first strike, take it forward back. And get that, draw a line through and get that width established and work up that center line to give it a good balance in terms of putting the pieces together. So we switch gears from that little elevation into a little study here. Let's bring these guys, if we get them all put together on the screen here. I started with let's go this way first. This was no, I guess it's not going to work. It's going to be close, I think, right there. So yeah, I started with this guy here. Little elevation, went to a cam back, so that very slope back in the first sketch into Canson, and then went back into a three-quarter front study again with that proportion element putting it together. And I think that was the real gist of this whole stream, is to get the proportions down. It's so critical, height, length, width, and then getting them back in and making sure the proportions are set. And once they get in good stead and are really well organized, I think the rest of the sketch flows together nicely. And then putting the graphics down, keeping it minimalistic and not overworking it, that's all part of the concept study here I'm trying to put together in the stream. And then I just started this last page, Jeff, when you came on board here with this guy, a little thumbnail sketch here. Let's go back and kind of crank out one more little study here. Let's kind of go back to this and see if we can get this to work. Yeah. Right, draw a line down. Let's go a little deeper with this thing now. Here's phase two. What do you think, gang? There's a couple little thumbnail sketches here on how to put together proportion. Little 3/4 front. Again, notice that where that strike line is there, you come across and get that center line to work, a little bit of tire board, get that width correctly, and boy, you're on your way. So let me stop there for a second, gang. What do you think? Just making sense at all by getting these proportions down? These are really quick little concept sketches and putting together some fundamentals of proportion, a little bit of scale involved in it, and a little bit of newness in some cases. And again, just taking some chances on getting some really interesting. Let's move this off the one side here. Get these guys lined up. There's a couple of gang shots right there. Just let's reverse these guys. So there it is, and there it is. And just kind of slide that in there side by side. There's a couple little thumbnail sketches that are based on just quick, rapid concept sketches, elevations, 3/4 fronts, just a whole lot of variation on theme. And I started the presentation today with this little pencil sketch, again, really emphasizing the importance of getting proportions down in an elevation, getting the wheelbase correct, overall heights, lengths, and overhangs. Then when you really get critical is when you move into the 3/4 front or 3/4 rear. It takes on a whole different scenario in terms of making sure that things are really proper. And I think the toughest thing is to get that width correct. And I've always started with the basic concept of, for example, once you lay that first wheel in, that second wheel in, come right across off the top of that guy and give yourself a guideline and then get the cowl in place. Let me take that back. Body contour, cowl, take that cowl across and extend that line over and get that center line, which is about right in here, set. That gives you an idea of where the proportions are as far as width is concerned. I've long been a believer in really putting together a good proportion, 3/4 front, no matter what the perspective is, especially front and rear 3/4. Always really healthy to work up your center line. Nothing will disparage it. I think it's a great guidepost. Once you find where that center line is, everything else falls into place. And just to show you what that really means here, let's go back here for a second. Let's put this aside. Let me just show you very quickly what this does. Just so we're on the same page as far as getting that proportion down here. If you go to the 3/4 front, let's get that first wheel set, for example. Let's lay that in. Let's take it back in perspective. Let's give yourself a frame to work with. Just outlining it in here. 1, 2, 3, 4 back. Notice how it diminishes as I go back there. So I'm here, then I'm here. I'm going to come across to the body line here. Just kind of put a contour line on this thing. Just kind of put this just an abstraction. Let's get that in place. Now, once I find where my overhang is, I'm going to come back in and pick up my cowl line, which is right here, into upper. Take that over, run that through, and then again, let's just kind of go back in through and stretch that up. I mean, look at the difference right here. Let's get the glass line in place. Collapse it. The upper. Let's go back and modify that just a bit here. Put a secondary line in there. Break it just a touch. Now notice what happened here. What I've done is taking that line right here, added the body contour into the upper, found that point which gives me the cowl, and then right across here. Now that center line's about right there. There's my upper windshield. Take that right down to the same draft line as this is. Run that over. There's my reference. I can drop that in. Now I can start to really put together the shape. I can drop it in, and right back to my rendezvous point, which is right here. And then notice, there it is. And from there, fold forward, again, around, draw through this, get the overhang in place. And I'll leave it at that. I mean, you can reduce that, you can kind of pull it back a little bit, but that's a really good guidepost as to where to get that stuff to work for you here. Let's kind of put this in place here. Not thinking about design here, just going to get the proportions down. Just come across. Now, if there's a change in the fender form, maybe to lift that up, that comes up, and that drops in. So you raise that up and drop that and come across again. Pick that same contact point up here. It's going to come up and then drop right about where the cowl line is, right there. So you're going to get a contour change in that belt line. It's just little things to look at in terms of putting together form. And again, there's a lot of overhang here, so it's just going to move this wheels forward just a bit. Kind of get that scale set, bring that into place. Lamping graphics. Very simplified, obviously. But again, that gives you, that center line gives you everything you need to know in terms of putting together proportions here. So let me stop right there and carry on a little bit here. Is this making sense, gang? So far, so good. Jeff and Demetrius, thank you so much for tuning in here today. A lot of fun to have you on board, guys. So that's a little lesson here in terms of putting together that proportion. To me, that proportion and width is the most critical. Sometimes they're too narrow, sometimes they're too tall. But if you work off that center line using those construction points I just mentioned, a lot healthier in terms of putting together the overall sketch. Just got to put those aside for a moment here. Let's got to go back and just try one more shot here. A little bit of media work here. Got one prepared ahead of time here. Just to kind of look at some basic geometry. Let's put this together here just real quickly. We're going to go back into some really quickly spontaneous gestures here. Let's go back in and look at some very simple processing here. Let's go back in. I'll write down a little bit of my marker work. A little bit, hey, that's great, Jeff. Thanks very much. So we come back in, a little bit of contour work here. Just real quick, real lucid. Scratch right through it. And in that rear 3/4 area there, take that right on through into that highlight in that fender. Mark that in. There we are there. Look at that. Using another value, for example, come back in here, get those wheels to work a little bit, just putting some stain in here, getting the tires to kind of flush out for us here. Now, next thing, a little bit of graphics here, a little graphic there, get that cockpit to work. Real quick, spontaneous stuff, nothing fancy, just laying in some graphics. There we are there. Tire in place, shadow. Happens very quickly and very spontaneously. It's just neat stuff. I mean, you go back in through here. And have a little fun with this guy. Let's put a little bit of body color inside that form here. And the highlight. And just a little color studies there. Just going to put some information together here. Let's go a little further with this guy. And I've got this out. Let's just kind of give it the same kind of graphic treatment. You know, a lot softer too in some areas. And come back in here with a real soft palette. Oh, excuse me. Right here for a moment, pardon me. That in place. And back underneath there with a little bit of scuff on this guy. Side tire, just really quick gestures. Just kind of indicating where the forms are here. And a little bit of fun with this guy. And last but not least, maybe a little bit of sky tone here. And there's another little rough study here. Just kind of putting some graphics together, and really quick and easy. So let's kind of keep going down the line here. A little bit of impact. Hopefully this is helping, gang. Just looking at very quick little thumbnails here. Back in and get some real high contrast graphics in this guy. I'm just picking up the high contrast points, and I'm not paying attention to an awful lot of detail here. Just looking at really good, hopefully, very interesting graphics. Almost positive, negative. Let the artwork follows the rest of the shape. Ooh, let's get these guys lined up here a little bit. There we are. We'll stay in here. Let's get this pen here. Let's do this instead. Let's go back and put a little pencil definition in this guy here. Let's see, my number 5 gray here, we got it. Almost there, gang. And there it is. There's a couple of little thumbnail sketches here on where we're at, and there she is, gang. I'm just going to stop right there for the time being. Just some really quick little lucid concept sketches. There we are, in place there, and I hope that will really kind of settle some things for you guys as far as approach is concerned, and we'll maybe pick this thing up on Tuesday. And again, as I said in the beginning of the stream, I really felt bad about the fact that in the first couple of go-rounds on Tuesday, we couldn't get the thing to kind of register up on Twitch. And just a real sad situation in terms of couldn't get up here to go run live here. But I just want to go back in and throw some really quick little concept sketches together. A little multimedia stuff, some tone paper, some basic pencil, overall proportions and the like. And while I'm at it, I just want to go ahead and maybe kind of wrap in this guy real quickly. It's just a nice little pencil gesture. A bit of a reverse pillar. Real fast little thumbnail sketch. It's just exploratory, simple. And there it is. Just nice and direct and easy. And just a little touch of lamp assembly back here. A little bit up front. And there we are. Just some really quick little thumbnail sketches here, gang. So to those of you with me today, Jeff and Demetrius, thank you so much for joining forces today. It was a lot of fun. Again, just a real quick capsulation of what we're after today, just looking at some real quick thumbnail sketches on some transportation design concept work. Very rapid. We started with, let me go back where we started with here. We started with this sketch. There's a little elevation study here. We put that one together just to get started with an elevation and do a 3/4 front perspective. Then we switched gears and went into the same variation of the theme, almost went into a camback series here with that same look, but more of a camback, a wagon-like shooting brake look. Then a little bit of a 3/4 front variation on theme, just to kind of put together some basic concept work and put that together. Then did a couple little sport coupe studies on Canson paper, just really lucid again, very, very gestury kind of sketches to kind of put it all together for us. And last but not least, wrapped it up with this guy, just underneath this sheet here. This is there's little different variations on theme, basic pencil sketches, a little bit of marker added, some little multimedia stuff to get to it. So once again, gang, thanks so much for the time today. Great to have you on board and much appreciate it. Wish you all the very best. And again, thank you for tuning in. Please visit my website at jim@drcontrast.com. We're trying to get some things organized now. We've been talking about this t-shirt apparel line for quite some time. We're getting them photographed now, and hopefully we'll be up on the site very soon. We're going to add 8 shirts and 8 graphic posters to kind of follow suit with it. So please keep checking in at jim@drcontrast.com to get that squared away, and we'll keep you posted on that. And if you have anything you want to work on to help you with, any suggestions, for example, for future streaming or programming, please feel free to drop me a line at jim@drcontrast.com. Just great to have you on board today. Those 2 things, I think announcements are made. We're all good to go here, gang. Hope you had as much fun as I did putting this together, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully on Tuesday. So I'll always finish with this. I think it's the most important part of the stream. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. All the best, gang. Thanks very much, and take care. We'll see you Tuesday. Thanks. Bye-bye.